There's a book title for all those potential authors out there that might be watching my videos. Why a select population gets a boner over tech metal, and why you probably shouldn't. How you doing? I'm coverkillernation. We're here to talk about a new album that's going to be coming out tomorrow, which is February the 14th, just in time for Valentine's Day. It's Incongruous by the band Beneath the Massacre. And as kind of prefaced in the introduction to this video, these guys are a technical death metal band. And this is an album that certainly fits the vein of technical death metal, where you are to be blinded by the virtuosity of all of the players, to be impressed by the speed in which they're able to accomplish on their instruments, and kind of pay very little mind to the vocals unless you are an uber fan of brutality, which this is a record that certainly boasts all of these things. Now, the problem is that with technical death metal, it's very rare that you find a band that really goes kind of outside of the envelope. It's very rare to find a band that is willing to explore something deeper than technical death metal, to the point where it becomes somewhat of a metamorphosis into multiple different genres, or really show its own particular character. There are some bands out there that will kind of explore the realms of maybe progressive technical death metal, or maybe take it to the side of black metal, or do this or that, but whenever you talk about just standard technical death metal, it's kind of a pretty simple formula, something that not a lot of bands tend to explore into too much of a gratuitous detail. Now, of course, there are exceptions to every rule, and if you would like to speak of one in the comments, feel free. However, this is just kind of a generalization and a semi-blanket statement. As far as Beneath the Massacre's album is concerned, this is a 36-minute long affair, and it's one that just seems kind of done before. It seems done before not so much just in the vein of Beneath the Massacre themselves, but in the technical death metal community, period. This is an album where maybe about 5 to 6 years ago, this would have been considered groundbreaking and really just an opus for the ages, but now that technical death metal has kind of had some room to simmer, not to mention also has had some room to grow, this is an album that just kind of feels a little bland. One that does have all the traditional staples, does have the mind-blowing technicality, it does have the very tight sound to it, not to mention also has the brutal-sounding vocals, so to speak. It's just something that feels really worn. This is an idea that seems a little bit tired, that a lot of bands that are, they kind of were in this little idea from the get-go, or it came out a little bit afterward, are kind of just continuing on with this particular vein instead of growing a little bit musically. Now, the upside of this album is going to be the fact that it is a relatively short affair, so this is not something where you're going to have to really take a lot of time out of your day in order to take a listen to this record. It's something that's a little bit over a half of an hour, so it's almost like a sitcom and then the opening scenes of a second half an hour of a sitcom. So, if you can watch a sitcom that sucks, you can listen to this album. The one thing I feel about this record, besides the fact that it feels tired, is just the overall feeling that, I don't know, it's an overall feeling that this is something that's not really for everybody. It's something that really only certain sectors of the metal community will really embrace and consider to be godly, instead of this being something where many different fans of many different genres from the metal community and abroad will kind of branch across and listen to this record and really find something special about it. I really don't know just how much you can use a record like this as some sort of a calling card to expand your fan base or anything like that, because it's not unlike a lot of bands out there that you've heard in the technical death metal department, and whenever you listen to it, it for the most part, straight through, is the same idea, only done in little different ways, but still expanded around the same idea of quickness, of acceleration, of technicality, of virtuosity, and it just is an idea that it's kind of nice in little increments, but whenever you go to the overall whole, it really just kind of leaves you feeling a real desire of longing, kind of longing for something different. And it's not so much that this is a bad album, it's just the fact that this is an idea that's starting to really show its age, and show the need for diversity, and show the need for a little bit of something more. And this is something that every major scene kind of gets into the groove with, or kind of falls victim to, because it's something that every scene really has to experience. It's the growing pains of the scene, where you're going to see the bands that really are able to show a lot of dynamisty within the community are going to shine forth and really get the recognition. Aside from the fact that, you know, there are some genres, such as deathcore, that just find legions of idiotic fans, and for some strange reason, brutality in that sector seems to just work. I disagree with that one. And with technical death metal, I'm starting to see the growing pains really start to be experienced. A couple of years ago, a lot of technical death metal masterpieces were really concocted, and it seemed like this was a scene that was ripe for budding, and the harvest of these bands were really going to lead to a lot of fruit. But instead, we've gotten that tired idea right now, where it's time for the harvest to occur again, but it's time for the harvest to occur with some changes, with some tweaks, and with a little bit of something more, because this seems to just be lacking something. So overall, this is an album that I would say delivers a very, very minuscule 7, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, all depending on when it hits you, all depending on what mood you're in, all depending on what mood that you're aiming for. But overall, this is not an album that I feel is really going to expand the fan base too much. This is just kind of there. It's one that I'm not real heavy on. It's not one that I'm not terribly light on, but whenever I would say that it's kind of in the middle, I'm leaning a little bit more towards the light side. It's just not something that I see those growing pains, and it just kind of leaves me sitting there thinking, well, that was alright. You might disagree with me, and if you do, that's fine. Leave your counter-arguments in the comments, or leave your praise for this band in the comments, because you're still supporting heavy metal, and that's still a great thing. So, regardless of my thoughts, definitely check out the album, and formulate your own opinion. My name is coverkillernation, and if you happen to write that book that I mentioned in the beginning, send me a copy for free. That'd be really cool. I might even review it.